Hey, welcome. I got a 2008 Ford Ranger, and let me show you what the problem was here. Okay, you can see here I have got the dash apart, but when you let me get around here where you can see. When you move the gear shift, the little slider here that shows you where you're at was hung up over here on park. See, it's down here on 1 now. Okay, and when you moved the shifter, it didn't move. So I figured out how to get the dash all apart here. I'll show you putting it back together what all you got to do. And you have to take the cluster out, speedometer cluster, and there's 2 bolts on each side, one up here and one down there. Can't hardly see it, I don't get down there. Same on the other side. And you have to take the back of the cluster, the white part, off of the cluster. And what was wrong with it was the little slider that was on. It got so dirty it was hanging up. And then of course when it hung up over on park, then it pulled it loose underneath. Here's the other end of it here, and it hooks up on your shifter. I'll show you when I get to it. And when you move the shifter, it pulls that and moves it into place. Okay, so that's what I'm doing today, trying to get this little Ford Ranger. Of course, you could drive it fine without that, but you know, the fact that it wasn't showing you what gear you had it in, you know, like for it to work if you can. Most of the screws that hold everything together, I had to use this to put some of the screws back in because I couldn't get my fingers in there. But most of them are 7 millimeter. I used to have to use the ratchet with an extension, but they're 7 millimeter. They're 7 millimeter, whole bunch of them. Where you can see it here. Okay, I'm gonna put a few more. I like one more getting the cluster back in. I wanted to mention on that cluster, there's 2 connections on the back of it that you squeeze and pull out. Now, if you got a tilt steering wheel, which I don't on this truck, you can move the steering wheel all the way down and put your key in it and move your gear shifter all the way down. It takes all that to get it out. It's really tight in there. And like I said, 2 connectors on the back. And of course, you got to disconnect the little cable here that adjusts your gear numbers. Okay, I've got the cluster, the 4 screws that holds it back in. I wish I could show you a little bit more, but I'm by myself today, so I have to work and then hold the camera too. Sorry about that. But anyway, I'll show you each step of putting it back together and just go in reverse to take it out. Take the cluster out. And you have to take the cluster out and take the back off of it, the white cover on the back off of it, to get to that, to clean it. And I just cleaned it with some electronic a cleaner and lubricant. This is the cable that hooks onto your shifting arm lever. You see that little wire coming out of it? It's got a little loop on it. If I can turn it, it's got a little loop on it, and it hooks on to the little arm that's on your shifter. I'll show it later. And then this, of course, fastens up under here on the, yeah, see if I can get to it. Get my finger on it right there, and it'll only go on one way. And you got a little screw that holds it on. Yeah, let me get that back on there. Okay, I got it screwed back up on there. See it? It has an adjustment once you get it on the little loop on the arm, so you can loosen it or tighten it by turning it here. Okay, I got it on there. It's a pretty good trick to getting that little loop over the level lever. There's the cable, and if you can see up there where the lever is, how it's just looped on that lever right there. Right there. Then you got that adjustment. But I found out the hard way, you need to leave it adjusted about like this. If you adjust it all the way down, it doesn't go in park. It doesn't show park correctly. So about like that is how it's supposed to be. Okay. Okay, got my foot on the brake. Now it's R, N, D, 2, and then 1. And back up to park. That's the best I could get it. I left about 1/4 of an inch out on the threads. If you screw it all the way down, it won't go in park hardly. Okay, we're going to put this bezel that goes around the speedometer. Got a vent on it and got your lights on it. This was tight getting off because, like I said, I don't have a tilt steering wheel. And we got 2 plugs here that go over here under the vent on the lights. And it pretty well just snaps in once you get it behind the steering wheel. Okay, like I said, that bezel around the speedometer and the gauges, the instrument cluster, it just snaps in. You had 2 connectors here behind the light switch you got to snap in. And it is a tight fit, but no screws. It just snaps in. Next thing we got is this heavy metal plate, and it goes under the steering wheel. Let's see if it goes under the steering wheel, and there's 4 screws hit on. Okay, I got the plate on. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 millimeter screws that go in there with a washer made onto it. Okay, and next we got the bottom bezel cover here, which I think, now it's got 1, 2 screws at the bottom, but the rest of it looks like just snaps on to cover all that up down below. Got this bottom bezel underneath the steering wheel on. It's held on. It just snaps in at the top, and it's just got this, I believe it's 7mm. Yeah, 7mm. Most everything is 7mm. And got one over on one on the right, one on the left. And the next thing we got here, to get all that off, you got to take the hood handle off. It's got two 7mm in head. It may be a little aggravating. We'll see. Okay, we got the hood release back in, and it was a trick. You can't hardly get down there to see. You got two to put in there. I used two of the longer screws. It was two short ones in there, just so I could get them up there and tighten them up. But we've got hit. Next is the radio and the radio bezel. There's one screw goes here, and I think that's all, and it just snaps in. And then there's two on the bottom. I'll show you when I get it in. There's the radio and the bezel. Like I said, it just put that one screw up here in the corner. I used one of the short ones that came out from down there, and it worked fine. And you can see up under here, maybe you can get it holding it correctly. Here is a screw, and here is a screw. On here and over here. There's everything back in. I took this plate off, but it wasn't necessary. It just snaps in, no screws. And now we can either go in reverse, neutral, drive, two, and then one, and then back to park. So, that's a pretty good job. I've probably spent 2 hours on this. Of course, I had to figure out how to take the dash and all apart. If anybody else has a problem with that, that's it. The little slider where the little hand is there at park, it slides and there's a spring behind on it, and it had got dirty there, and I had to clean it off, and I lubricated it with some electronic cleaner and lubricant, and then the little loop had come off underneath about where my foot is there, right straight up above. There's a little loop on that cable. It hits on a lever that moves when you adjust your gear shifter. Now, it may have hung up and somebody might have taken it off the lever just because it was hung up. I don't know, but it was off. It was off there and dirty up here. So it's working now. Thanks for watching. Please like, that tells me that I'm showing you something that you like to watch. And subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it makes it look better for me. Thanks again for watching.